privileges, including sovereign rights to land, water, air. The reason why that's important is because we have cell towers, things that happen on a reservation, but we don't have we feel that a lot of people say we don't have that authority, but we do, and we just want to assert that right. And all of these are important issues, but the reason why I'm going through all of these is I'm going to head over back to the tribal building because I need to get some business done before tomorrow. We're going to meet with the Northwest tribes starting tomorrow to Saturday, and it's important for the cohorts, and we sit down nation to nation with these tribes, so that's where I'll be next 3 days. But that's why we need to go get some business done over there. But the vice chairman will be here. If you have any questions, legal will be here as well. But those are important, and I just want to elaborate on the importance of each of these joint action resolutions. And today, I thank you for having this special session on this day, because people are starting to talk about the treaty, the importance of it, and it's been very important to me. I've been to the actual site of where the Fort Laramie Treaty took place down in Wyoming. I've also been to both Crow agencies prior to this one, and those places have a significant but sad history to them because of what happened in the past. And we got to remember the past in order to go forward into the future, so we can have a brighter future. But we need to know where we came from, and the past. We learn from those mistakes and we move forward. There's 13,000 tribal members, as stated earlier, and out of those 13,000, the individuals in here, we've been given basically to the right to move this tribe forward. All of you in here, all of you were placed in this position to do good for the tribe, and I intend to do that, and I hope you be on the same page as me when we move forward. And again, what we're doing is just a gesture showing, that we're together as a tribe, as a nation. We come together, we support each other, and we're going to the rights. While we've never lost them, they've just been dormant all this time, and it's time to wake up. A lot of people in the past, when there was councils, they would talk about the sleeping giant, the Crow tribe being a sleeping giant, and I think this is an opportune time to wake up and move forward and assert our rights, wherever it may be, because for far too long we've been taking a backseat to not only the state but the U.S. government and farmers and ranchers on this land. And I'll stand for the rights that we have as tribal members, and I hope you'll take that stand with me. And that's why today's a significant day. So I'll be across the way there. Today, all of our programs are out there picking up trash, and I would hope, not today, but in a very short future, you do a litter law, because too often we see people throw trash out and there's nothing we can do. And we can laugh about it, we can joke about it, but when you cross the reservation line, we talk about the pride and we see all the trash all over. So a litter law that's stringent, and that's going to take effect immediately, because we have too much trash. We ordered 2,000 bags for today, and they're all filled now. And that's from Garryon to Dunmore. That's a 10-mile stretch. We have 2 million acres. And in the late Carl Van used to say, there used to be a commercial where this Indian would look over the hill and see the trash, and one tear would drop. He said if he came to the reservation, he'd probably shed out, a lot of tears because all the trash here. And I still believe, we need to do something along those lines, because even if you go to the springs in Commissary and Red Springs, even those places are trashy. And even our mountains, so I really urge you to do a law that's, based on that, because we have the abatement law for housing, but nothing for the whole reservation.
All right, thank you, Chair. So with that, I guess Executive Legal Counsel, you'll be here with us for the rest of the afternoon as we entertain these last 4 JARs. At this time, then, that brings us to the next JAR, which is a joint action resolution of the Crow Tribe to commission a resurvey of the exterior boundaries of the Crow Indian Reservation and all islands of the Yellowstone River upstream from the 107th meridian, and to request the federal government to assist in such efforts. At this time, the floor recognizes Executive Legal Counsel. I guess it will be Melissa.
A joint action resolution of the Crow Tribe to commission a resurvey of the exterior boundaries of the Crow Indian Reservation and all islands of the Yellowstone River upstream from the 107th meridian, and to request the federal government to assist in such efforts.
Floor recognizes Senator Not Afraid of the La Trans District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, second by Senator Coversop. Go ahead and proceed.
Whereas Article 5, Section 2A of the Crow Tribal Constitution vests the Crow Tribal Legislature, hereinafter legislature, with the power and duty to promulgate and adopt laws and resolutions in accordance with the Crow Constitution and federal law for the governance of the Crow Tribe. And whereas Article 4, Section 4A of the Crow Tribal Constitution provides that the general duties of the executive branch officials shall include the duty to implement all laws, resolutions, and policies duly adopted by the legislature, and whereas the exterior boundaries of the Crow Indian Reservation were established by the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty between the United States and the Crow Tribe, and define the south boundary as the territorial line between Montana and Wyoming, the north and west boundary as the midstream of the Yellowstone River, and the east boundary as the 107th degree of longitude, also known as the 107th meridian. And whereas subsequent agreements between the Crow Tribe and the United States resulted in Congressional Land Cession Acts in 1882, 1891, and 1904, which ceded areas of the Crow Indian Reservation and resulted in the current exterior boundaries, which encompass approximately 2.3 million acres. And whereas in 1958, Congress passed the Indian Land Restoration Act, contained in the Congressional Record as Public Law 85-420, which restored all vacant and undisposed lands in the 1904 ceded strip to Crow tribal ownership as part of the Crow Indian Reservation, a total of approximately 10,261 acres, and included islands and associated riparian lands gained by accretion of the Yellowstone River and the ceded strip. And whereas the precise location of the exterior boundaries is not known by the Crow Tribe to be properly marked on the ground, especially in remote areas and along the southern, eastern, and western boundaries, and whereas the location, size, and condition of all Yellowstone River islands beneficially owned by the Crow Tribe, or which the Crow Tribe has a legal right to claim as such, should be determined as soon as practical, so appropriate actions may be taken to secure the interests and rights of the Crow Tribe in such lands. Now therefore be it hereby resolved by the executive branch and legislature in special session, Section 1, Commission of Resurvey of the exterior boundaries of the Crow Indian Reservation. The Crow Tribe shall commission a survey of the exterior boundaries using available state-of-the-art technologies and methods in order to accurately mark the boundaries in such places as to provide adequate public notice, and if necessary, to expand the territorial jurisdiction of the Crow Tribe. This survey shall be conducted by surveyors enrolled in a certified federal surveyors program who shall work under the supervision and direction of the executive branch. All such expenditures of funds within the control of the Crow Tribe as may be required for this purpose shall be available under the appropriate budget department code category contained in the fiscal year 2013 Crow Tribal budget. Section 2, Commission of Survey of Yellowstone River Islands. The Crow Tribe shall commission a survey of the Yellowstone River Islands and associated riparian lands south of the midstream points upstream from the 107th meridian, using available state-of-the-art technologies and methods for the purpose of determining exact acreage and location, and to review all legal rights and claims held by the Crow Tribe. This survey shall be conducted by surveyors enrolled in the Certified Federal Surveyors Program, who shall work under the supervision and direction of the executive branch. All such expenditures of funds within the control of the Crow Tribe as may be required for this purpose shall be available under the appropriate budget department code category contained in the fiscal year 2013 Crow Tribal budget. Section 3, assistance from federal government. The executive branch shall take all necessary and proper measures to ensure the federal government, consistent with its role as trustee for the Crow Tribe, assists with technical, legal, and other logistical aspects of the surveys described in sections 1 and 2 of this tribal resolution. Section 4, review of Bighorn River land claims. The executive branch shall employ legal counsel to ascertain any and all claims against any person or entity other than the United States, including claims for monetary damages with respect to the claim of the Crow Tribe of title to land created by the movement of the Bighorn River and the productive use of that land created by the movement of the Bighorn River to which the tribe has previously claimed title or which the tribe may properly claim title. There shall be a written report and legal opinion made to the executive branch and legislature on or before the first day of the April 2014 quarterly legislative session, which shall include an official recommendation on the best course of action to protect and advance the rights and claims of the Crow Tribe to lands created by the movement of the Bighorn River. Section 5, report to legislature, Crow Tribal General Council. The executive branch shall report to the legislature through its designated committees on the status and progress of the surveys described in sections 1 and 2 of this tribal resolution during the October 2013 quarterly legislative session and in every regular legislative session thereafter until such time as all surveying efforts have been completed, at which time a final report on the surveys shall be made in writing to the legislature and the Crow Tribal General Council, and shall be a permanent tribal record to be kept by the executive branch secretary. Section 6, effective date. This tribal resolution shall become effective immediately upon becoming duly adopted by the legislature and approval by the executive branch chairman.
Thank you. This brings us to the 30-minute presentation. At this time, it'll be the executive branch. And who will be, okay, Mr. Stewart will be speaking on behalf of the executive branch. Executive legal has asked that he come in and speak on this, on behalf of this.
Thank you. Chairman, four stages, get up. My heart out and say, oh, you might. Na, service, what we have there on the maps. Southwest corner, far. When they cut us down that far, when they put they marked that. And couldn't be, you don't know. I will tell you what box and a home. Boxy, you 1891, what is it? One survey, your room. 1919, what is it? One county of Hardin County to survey sections so they can start claiming those lands. Won't change, you think so. Year 2000, what is in the 107th, we went to Red Lodge and we county commissioners go to and this surveyor does not have a right to change that boundary. Big guy going, you're right. But, let us do some research too and go like in the Koda, be Clifford. Go Ure na ye kora je, another survey, you know, what happened was that, he got elected chairman and they take office July 1st, and this meeting we had was in June of year 2000. We didn't know who he's gonna hire. So we had that meeting and they says, when can you come back? Fred Lieutenant, go there, you can. How about after Labor Day? And we got what you saw. Tawuk sambil ke iwali juga karena Dutch there so much demi there waram sigabu nak sigabu kera then some of you guys from prior probably know that they may get good road go let's go abuga haj ki sunniyo ka kon kustakh ki hore survey we get and survey get bomb Clarence Blue, one, he was helping his boys. And your survey, you know, give that line on the west side is supposed to follow the natural divide between Clark's Fork and Prior Creek, according to the congressional act. And that was way below on this side. It grew to all, on the east station. That hill was way up there. And Clarence Blue was, when we went to court, he was going to have moved that up on top of that hill up there, on a natural divide. The guy is going to make a woman nice to you, she 87. He had to know Clarence Blue, he was going to do something to have him move that up on that ridge. It's in the south boundary. Between Little Horn and Lost Gas Creek, don't survey yet, Mum. That's a short canyon age. Surveyed for the old hills and it was done wrong. U.S. Forest Service boundary have markers also. Go Wyoming line, particularly, it's down on the side there. And between Pass Creek and Little Horn, one textbook survey yet ball 536 feet off waterways where that I found that marker buried. You know, stay up there. Right there by Louis Hill, on this side of that gravel road, so that's got to go, fence go up and most of it come chip, that's his up. Mama marker, go that. And we'll go to all the that way. The deal go to Gabina, eastern boundary, here they 107 say, Gig Settlement, go to school, get the one thing too is that south of the Cheyennes to the Wyoming line, they gave us that coal in that strip that. And Kugak Sigurli, Kugak all they got to do is trade for federal coal. And all service mining, it's been done, so you guys can do that too. And Kugak or to mine, go they lage order because he round up Kuta. Federal coal, go there, you trade Kuta, you can get that money. What scares me about this Cows Peak thing is that you have a buffer zone of 1,500 feet, go to place, miners, Scott Isabel. 1,500 feet. And they go do it, they won't get the coal, they'll just taper that, like this, and that coal will be down here, so we might lose out on that. You have to trade that coal for federal coal. You get that. Southwest corner to the Bighorn, Pearl Mountain, range units, go they get one they wanted that survey. And bids go to them. I didn't want, we need 3 bids from there was 2 and I didn't want to get it, but they told me they need 3, so I didn't, there's no fence there. So I said, I'm gonna bid real high so I don't get it, 7,500 for 6 months. But big deal on it, 'cause when I got it. We went over there early in the morning, got there about 6 o'clock in the morning, my son and I, and we started walking that. All those mile markers were right there, and we got it done in 4 hours. You, who I know from the prior mountains to the Bighorn Canyon, it's right on that old fence there. But, in between there and the southwest corner, but I just, some of those are either moved or something. And then the one other important thing is that Henry Reisterhorse, they were talking about that right away there. And he was there and they showed him some old pictures where that Sage Creek's supposed to go north through the Far Gap. And when that railroad was building that, he said he saw these pictures where they diverted Sage Creek to go this way. So really important, but okay, this thing, they diverted Sage Creek to go this way instead of up Parker. So we have good idea. I kind of noticed quite a few of those like that. Okay, this is beside the point, but when they kept cutting us down, I found during my research that Big Timber Creek, 20 miles from the mid-channel to the Yellowstone, right there, Big Timber Creek. 20-mile strip north and parallel to the mid-channel of the Yellowstone to the 107th was given to the Crow tribe. Nobody said nothing or anything, so later on they revised that and said that that was taken out. I think if we would have grabbed it. But anyway, a good idea. I noticed a lot of that in the Garvin Basin. You I know that some of those are off. And you couldn't get it so much. I know a lot of those places where it's wrong. And I haven't surveyed for about 8 years since my eyes got bad until they gave me some new eyeballs, I guess they call it. Cataracts. They removed them and I'm able to see again. So. But I don't know, AJ should be pretty smart on figuring out the amount that it would cost to survey and all that. I know this is, maybe it's out of the question on them. Okay. Okay. Any questions?
I believe we're still in a 30-minute presentation, so anyone who speaks is a proponent of this resolution. So if you're a proponent, you're in support of it. And Mr. Stewart here is speaking on behalf of the executive. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak as proponent while we're in 30-minute presentation? Senator Stewart of the Mighty Few District.
I grew up in a Pass Creek Well area in the state line. When we hunt out there or go out there, out of that lines into the reservation. So I think this survey would be great for the Crow Nation proponent. Also.
Thank you. Anyone else? We're still in 30-minute presentation. Senator Kyle Bruns of the Reno District.
Yeah, my uncle here is telling the survey, what he's telling us now is true. All the surveys done by whoever done it was, he wasn't an Indian. But, you know, that's why I had the idea of resurveying the reservation to the Boundary Flush, the Yellowstone ideals. Resurvey the islands. Like I said before, you don't know if they're using the gravel. For all we know, they might be using that on the islands. And once you get through that, then the Bighorn. We're always having complications at the Bighorn Islands, not islands alone, but the fee land that goes up to certain areas, and it don't go all the way to the river. But the white people who bought the piece of land, buy it, they claim the land to the river. That's one of the main things I wanted to get a survey for. That's why we're having a problem with the non-tribal trespassing, and nobody's doing nothing. And then they don't, not only that, but to enhance the tribal lands. No, they go up ways of a acreage for that.
All right, thank you, Senator. Senator goes ahead.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, at this time, I would like to yield my time to my brother Elijah, who wants to, as a proponent, wants to say a few words.
All right.
Legislators na Mabe Itigana legislation and then JR started about child. It's a long time coming. Met ik buch Marvin Lott is good 2001 when surveying he the grant kan bagleid kutaje gegen bigger sigaran paanolubu and agi Southwest Boundary Grade Schwinn he the gunti vish could 41.2 acres ego ze baham kolk cuz kutin palawa ki and the connect Harrelstad and kutaje go Mac Grade East Coast Awam Agios goes in a beeline to the south. You have a legal right to challenge the and covenant discrepancy starts there. The lage you say couldn't a woohoo last year tamper proof. Corusculan. Then she had a boundaries out. Hissy to you could a cogot bag something that cannot be moved. It then you can peg the spirit bagun the woohoo lage you black cops couldn't Marvin in eyes. Couldn't them all and couldn't you say last was a text school. Couldn't is aware 500 years is tied to a wooha Chile, Kachi South stuck on Kachi Hagich East, Machash is a coke steak. And Sage Creek couldn't code it. Bank on a page of again, Beganese action, Garagan Kalaba, Elinisa, you haven't a Kalaman lazy. And Kalagan could take on Basti and Parker Cabin, even Kalagan Benia take. And again, BLM, volunteer fire department, could do them. And BLM, can with them, Co Wasira here, Sakat to them. Backyard, get up there. In the cabin reservation could wood and could have gone again prior again cruise there and could tell the go watch it Asuku Bahazi want to kick me off this land now I got it bonded there the boys in our school here and could tell the again she had room be shbel who you say the beherachtig doen, maar de alleen halal after baarder te gazi maar haram kan te gegen beer doorstouw. En we lagen zo tegen 2000 is archaeologists say Costa National Forest bomb. Alachbaze kuga hagi khuru mark kara GPS kare iyo. En korige na kotaje Burton Smith Gary Plainbow. So that's the arm code you two guys you got a geezer touches could take on koi ooggesche the hunting season kan kon pattadun kollegen kun sa bridge och toesta ko the contact aso so kerje dan kolgen at bauna ti saga koi hooka sikyo Burton Smith to him the kolgen Duppali, Khidilate time, and Kurgunin, game wardens that Igistau, Kogi, Kuji, Egbuchelahish, Sakatum, the game wardens, there reservation on and the Kurgan, Sahabilu, get Clarence Belu again, enough. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to sue the Montana Fish Wildlife Program? Because no, we just want our rifles back here. Damn, I think he was looking at thousands. And Kotazi, na Khalways, coaches, they're going to boundaries, get up. Could they go get Clarence Belu, congressional record, the Olabuk. Go man, Olabi. I stood him. Kurgan, Sage Creek connected there, Lage, divert Creek, and being divert could be coded together. You get Paragat, Kondosio, Creamas. We have that right. And treaties get up. And Kurgan, Ohawa, Lage, Green, Hayden, Wyoming, Kagahum. You cook stove with that. It takes a dig on Kunawaha. And the cook stove there, what I see, we scared easy that a little more cushion. Matchazi and the gate. Kotraza easy as some number 2 in the world, come ship cabin and solid when a puke, you get hunting magazines, it was set down out as it. And a wuhio gave it at the Ganagan because of politics. We were Alice and Kotraza and Marvin in by cruise and the Kalalan Chiaman Olabum. The Marcy, the Behavior. And the Jula, Kurgan Bedachik. Bimmy what it, Bim, I usually bet that you been from Pucher Bauer time. And Kona, the survey, get a baptized reporting, get it, and made 107 everybody's in some negotiate good bow, 1990, get a North 27, come along. Kotaze, Baus, a car, shall be small. Behuk and Kurgan in a government, though they can never repay us back. I get some bagamum to get you Hagicho, the Sheikh Berigo here. At the last time with that, Kagaz is a Meshisan and Shosan, but say easy in Kuskota last week, and the Sheikh Berigo here, Kaladosen, Agich. And Tagana treaties that got there by it. Eastwell about Pompey Spirit, we're going by log. We couldn't watch it, Connor was in Irish Brazil. And Bajay was all you. And Kurgan, and the master here, Achuk, Pauli Umar, here. What is it? The rules answer. Dilog, Agiecho, a Marge Shirley, or Economas. It to get Bay Ido, a Yakaka, she is to come along to get good Pompey Spilligan, Economas, Kutagun, a Marge Gunamidach. It just so, exactly, in a Chiga Bay to Brazil, Hoy, and Kotaze, Kutelium, the Amagamio, Ko Heta, in a woman, interpreted a period. He interpreted the wrong words, and Kurgan asked, so soon as I got to him, a woman 3/4 of that, Agiecho, Dekuk, and Kotaze, Wakunamazina. Oh, she he's put a fair. Oh, how good and come on, see the Nutao. I mean, you got a village is a Cody, you Buffalo Bill Reservoir. Could there go Sheep Mountain or go what a North Fork, South Fork, which you what besides who castle garage could go Lazu, Sheep Mountain. And could there at least show what charge was again, and then quite each history. Bis Buchzak get Korak was it. I met you Berizak. Cocktail is that con use and now Yakre bilgala so an eistikja en agich the awakening was said then kara ek go base de gnerio knapilio kara gon ena ha dil khwisak bela dawa ek dus penuza ek wa ek belizankesh so what chance him koge hagi khre ena the kutte kara gon kara na dekyo kara gon len boundaries kadere get Cartilio will get little Glen. You about Ajme on Stanford Column. I can bring my GPS guys from Stanford University, and they're not too far off on a satellite. Coat will Glen Basi Lagi Big One River Kotel the in 1872 the allotment said Kun the egg Marvin is to you all can make Nissan he to go base go easy go about the Jim Torski so you Isaac is attorney Gresh how was that in Gray the Kalagun that was their own interpretation here enough and a Khalwash Ilu na Benaski that belongs to us that the Marvin's is 18 my little Glen no survey from satellite here I'll bet you anything that it takes a congressional act to move those then away saw the hours here no change to the side. It has to take Congress to change that and deal with interpretation now. Big interpretation, man. I bet you right now some of those fishing lodges and those boat garages are on Crow lands allotments and see the cove. And got that to make sure that we check the politics season. Take it out, wait to it, it's still there. They can another deal of resurfing you know what that you might say no you could request that by getting up you could say Wyoming not Tarus based on Wyoming in a Majuan happy because was no bills you could get the whole canyon gun and the citations could chidog and could have gone game Wyoming game and fish. We don't want any litigation. Please, we're going to let this go so you guys can come through here again. Took about 1989 and 1996 ago. And the Kalagun, nephew, we're going to talk to him. The Kursi, Biji Duki, Siyahish. And the Kotalaza, historical documents they took what they saw the Israeli gosh calling good Hagich then or how you buy the war at the beam of and Kataja Amiro and court all live turn that's these are historical facts and go in Egypt. I don't want this party to have any litigation with the state of Wyoming, so I'm going to dismiss this case out. They go out. So again, the sleeping giant has awoken, and a bungee or today, Barney steam, but changing, well, probably then Wyoming next state there. Here, what I'm here is the good part of putting a shell in your bullet in your gun and doing we have to do what the state did in 1975. James Flynn for Montana, Bujishin Dub, Bujishiku, and doing the now Balqueva, Agia committee war, till I get lost ball to do that, but more doing tribal member with them. Wyoming go to Custom National Forest, they show it boss for good. As a counter attack, Ira, deal, it's gonna come back and bite their butts. And look, they're gonna serve it, what charge you know little. So, okay, boy, go.
Sergeant Arms, how many times? We've got 3 minutes left in 30-minute presentation, so, Mr. Stewart, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't say one on Bighorn. You know, when they, the high water mark, when a lot of the lands out, they didn't go within that high water mark to the back of the river. And in that 1920 allotment act, if you look at it, that area is reserved for the Crow tribe, for water resources and powers, to have power. They took that away from us when they built that dam. But between there, it belongs to the Crow tribe, and if a white guy buys land here, they claim all the way to the bank. And I went and asked this county surveyor, Bill Osmondson, who pays, do they pay tax? Well, yeah, I go, I check everything, they pay tax. And what about from the high water mark to the bank of the river? Do they pay anything? Mom, no. And I said, why? Mom, that belongs to the Crow tribe, this white surveyor. It's good. They're building all these big lodges there. And according to one of the county commissioners before was that if the guy that I used to work with, they're kind of building lots there so that they want to start paying tax to go against us. And as long as we don't say anything, well, they're just going to take it away. If you look good, everybody know that Bill Osmondson says that belongs to the Crow tribe, and that's the way I understand it too. He mentioned Columbia. Thank you.
That brings us to the end of the 30-minute presentation. At this time, the Speaker of the House will ask the Chairman of the Land Surface Committee for approval or disapproval. Floor recognizes Senator Gozahead of the Arrow Creek District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, Vice Chair, members of the body, and guests and attorneys. Yes, Mr. Speaker, last Thursday, May 2nd, we had a Land Service Committee meeting. We started at 10:50 a.m. Senators that were present, 8. Senator Deep Crane, Senator Stuart Blacklock, Senator Coversup, Senator Secretary Old Crow, yourself, Mr. Speaker, Senator Other Medicine, Senator Coyote Runs, and myself. And from the executive branch, Attorney Bill Watt, Randy Three Arms was here, as well as Blaine Small and Everett Whiteman. And so the recommendation, as we went through the committee meeting, the recommendation was for approval by the full legislature for today's special session. And the motion for approval by the full legislature, motion was made by Senator C.J. Stewart, seconded by Lucille Medicine, questioned by Secretary Old Crow, and the vote was 7 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstain for approval. So the recommendation is for approval.
Thank you. We have recommendation approval from the Chairman of the Land Service Committee, Senator Gozahead. That brings us to debate. At this time, the floor is open for debate. Floor recognizes Senator Not Afraid of the Lodgegrass District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. Lage Bawi Zabesa Ik Chujujek Da Bago Kunowash Diwa Salogish Zashpudresh Che my dulik Mazabs Bilego Koyamat Noabe Daji da Bawala Odem the Hducho Spalarjek Go Daji da during the process might the Bazabs in a argument Kidealuil boundary and more important gosh to make an assessment on where the boundaries are at because of jurisdictional issues. And Lagia Bastashilish Malaysia where one Malay dog will get to sign Malaysia and enough Bawalajish Akumak Boundaries Bosch Correction Gadelewa Malay Chief Konai Chigazame and Big Mr. Speaker, I'm for this piece of legislation. I hope.
Thank you. We're still in debate. Going once. Still in debate. So recognize Senator Stewart of the Black Lodge District.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, Vice Chairman, members, at this time, I just want to, commend everybody for this. This is important, and I know we have basically a long road ahead of us on this, and we just can't, get lazy about it. We're going to have to continue the momentum that we're creating here, and as soon as we get moving on this, we're going to have to continue to keep this momentum, and again, establish planning, strategize with whatever agencies we're going to talk with, if it's BLM, and I just want to mention that in Title 25, it says survey of reservations. Whenever it becomes necessary to survey any Indian or other reservations or any lands, the same shall be surveyed under the direction and control of the Bureau of Land Management, and as nearly as may be in conformity to the rules and regulations under which other public lands are surveyed. So, at the time of amendments, I don't know if we're going to want to, put those in there, these languages like that. And the other piece that Jay and I were looking at is the 1904. In there, it states under Article 4 of the 1904 ceded, it says that for the purpose of segregating the ceded lands from the diminished reservation, the new boundary lines described in Article 1 of this agreement shall, when necessary, be properly surveyed and permanently marked in a plain and substantial manner by prominent and durable monuments, the cost of said survey to be paid by the United States. So that's there, and that'd be your top portion of your reservation there. That cuts out the 1904. And on your 91, in section 13, it says, it is a condition of this agreement that it shall not be binding upon either party until ratified by the Congress of the United States, and when so ratified, that cessions of lands so acquired by the United States shall not be opened for settlement until the boundary lines set forth and described in this agreement have been surveyed and definitely marked by suitable permanent monuments erected every half mile wherever practicable along the entire length of said boundary line. So as you look at this side here, where it severs onto the existing reservation, every half mile all the way along this reservation line, straight across and then down that side of the canyon, they're supposed to be, if not, then they're going against their own agreement here. Every half mile, a permanent marker paid for by the United States. So if this is something that we would want to put in as an amendment, I think we should state it. So I'm not in disagreement with anything here. All I'm saying is that I know it says we want to put money aside for our own surveys, but you got to remember, that we're talking about a lot of money here when they already agreed. You see, they've already agreed, and on the 107, they've already, that one, there's a proven inaccuracy on our reservation. So that should kick that into gear for our cause. And so on this issue here by itself, we have that side, we have an argument on this side and this side. And on the 90th parallel, that should speak for itself. But Mr. Speaker, so at this time, I'm just saying, we don't wanna say something to where we're gonna have to spend money, continue to spend money when they've already said they're gonna do it, and spend the money to do it. When we should claim everything and make sure that they spend money to prove us wrong. Because I can guarantee you that's gonna have to be the approach we're gonna have to take. Because right now, we have documented evidence that this is ours. And we have agreements that we're standing by that they have been continually to break. So, if the body chooses so, we'll bring that up at amendment stage.
Thank you, thank you. Floor organizes Senator Goes Ahead of the Arrow Creek District.
Oh, Mr. Speaker and Secretary, Vice Chair, members of the body, and guests, and the attorneys. Yes, during the meeting, it's a good point, Senator Stewart, on that 1904 agreement. I believe when we come to the amendments that we should add language. Because the question that I had, and it said, now therefore be it resolved, that first paragraph, when you look at the parentheses at the end of the first paragraph, section 1, Commission of Resurvey of the exterior boundaries of the Crow Indian Reservation. The parentheses at the bottom says the appropriate budget department / code category, parentheses, contained in the fiscal year 2013 Crow tribal budget. And I wrote in my notes, I asked, where is this money going to be appropriated from? And the Cloud Peak bonus money, I believe, was the award. So that part, we didn't really have an answer, but I wrote it down as a note. And at this time, I don't know if Dale or Melissa, if you have any, is that, we're gonna set aside some money for that? That hasn't been really discussed. So that was my, one of my questions. Okay, how are we gonna pay for this? It's gonna come out of our Crow tribal pocket. So that's a question that at this time that, and then if we have to use some of our general fund money, this 2013 budget, it's going to be September 30th, it's going to end. So we got to look at the 2014 as well too. So that was another question that I had also. So that was my comment. And so at this time, I believe, I agree with the 1904 agreement that every half mile, the BLM is supposed to have a marker to show where our res lines are. Oh.
Thank you, Chair. I remember that because our concern was we didn't want the tribe to have to spend any of our money to conduct this survey. We would rather that we would somehow make the federal government fulfill their obligation in having a correct survey, is what we were talking about. Because it was evident that they had messed up when they did that's how we got the 107th monies, because there's evidence there that they messed up on that survey, so we want them to pay for another survey. But we want it to be a correct survey, because now, with technology that we have today, the GPS, it will be more accurate. So at this time, I believe, I would think, I'm uncomfortable also with the last line there on section 1, where it says all such expenditures of funds within the control of the Crow tribe may be required for this purpose. I'm not really comfortable with that line at all. So at this time, I'm gonna open the floor to the Executive Legal Counsel to see if they have anything to say or recommendations at this time also.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, Vice Chair, members of the body. 4 things. One is, I think you've heard enough examples that the lines are ambiguous and there are errors. So that justifies the entire rationale for the resolution. And I think Mr. Stewart amply illustrated as well as Mr. Goes Ahead. the other three things I want to mention, number one is BLM, reading off Title 25 and other public lands. This has come up on many occasions that I recall within Interior. It actually includes the APD fees. There's various other things in there, but I've always thought that Indian lands are not public lands. They're our own. They're not public lands. They're Crow lands and they're Indian lands. And so I start to get concerned anytime we blur those lines, because we should be clear that these are ours. Now, whether they had a duty to perform the survey is a different question. If they have, then they should, and if that was their responsibility. So I mentioned that because that line has gotten blurred in other contexts, including the APD fees. So I'm not sure. I wouldn't recommend that it be put in the resolution. The other thing is, even if BLM was required to survey, which apparently they may have been, I know that the cadastral surveys that they do to set up the larger survey, those are the first things that are cut every year. And in addition to that, you add on sequestration, and you're going to be running into problems if we're seeking them to request funds in order to perform a function they should have performed a century ago. So I just add that in as practical facts. That being said, point number 3, Department of Interior, to my knowledge, in the last Tribal Leaders Council meeting, Montana, Wyoming, they indicated that there are COBEL funds to do a survey because they want to find out where the fractionated interests primarily are in order to do the buyback program over the next 10 years. So if anything should be cited, we know there's money there, and that money should be utilized, and we would agree, for example, if the body agrees that we should utilize, even if it's for other purposes, the funds that are set aside to survey Crow lands. So that's one area where you know the money is coming right around the corner. And the fourth thing, and it's just a question for the body, that Senator Stewart read the 1904 Act, the 1891 Act, and I'm sure through Legal J had combed through the details. It was their responsibility. After we ceded the land, they were supposed to survey, and then there were supposed to be lines that we followed jurisdictionally and rights attached. My reading of the resolution to date is that it just says exterior boundaries of the reservation. Which exterior boundaries? Are we talking the last federal statute, or are we talking the treaty boundaries? And I don't mean to go all the way to 1851. And where I'm going with this is, go back to our first resolution on off-reservation hunting. Do we need to know exactly what the metes and bounds of our off-reservation treaty rights are on those areas that are unoccupied? And should that be required of a federal agency to lay that out on exactly where we exercise those rights? I'm just asking that as a question to the body, because I don't have an answer necessarily, but I wonder about if the resolution is going to go down the road of holding the federal government accountable first before you go to the budget, and then presumably we'd start with the boundaries in the federal statutes that where we ceded certain lands, and of course some of those were restored. We'd want to start there, and then we may want it to go further if we want to have the areas where the off-reservation treaty hunting rights extend to. And certainly not on the Crow Tribes Act. That should be on someone else's. And so in answer to Senator Gozahead's last point, which is, do we know where it is in the internal budget? I think they're just assembling the budget now for 2014, and then whether there was a set-aside understanding, that would be probably between you and the chairman on whether there was money set aside for that purpose. And if there was, there was. If there wasn't, then we'll go through the process. So I just bring up those 4 points because I agree with what Senator Stewart had to say, at least from our perspective, that this shouldn't just be on the back of the Crow tribe. It just shouldn't. And how we hold them accountable, whether it's the plain resolution And then we do a follow-up letter to execute it, to say, first, we are going to hold Interior accountable, and we want to know what the lines are, and we think you should prioritize this because there are rights attached to it. And then we go to the Cobell account, and then, and if and only then, do we need to, would we dip into tribal funds, presumably, after we've exhausted all those other potential sources of revenue.
Thank you. At this time, we are still in debate. Going once, we're still in debate. Going twice. Floor recognizes Senator Not Afraid of the Las Gracias District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. In following the tradition of Senator C.J. Stewart from the Black Lodge District, I did post the opening language of today's JAR, a Joint Action Resolution, etc., with reference to the reestablishing the boundaries. I received a comment from a neighboring tribe from the west, and this was their comment. We did the same thing for our tribe, Quinault Nation. We finally got our north boundary back, but I don't know how many acres it was. It took forever, but my people prevailed. So don't ever give up for doing the right thing by your people. Just wanted to extend that forward because I believe that's our goal. So, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're still in debate. Second call, debate, third call. If no more, we will proceed on to, we'll open the floor for recommendations and motions for amendments at this time. This time, our floor recognizes Senator Goes Ahead of the Arrow Creek District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members of the body, and Vice Chair, and Legal Counsel, and guests. I believe at this time, Legal Dale threw a question at us and never got an answer. But you know, this Title 25 of the CFR, there's a survey for reservations. I'm going to read that, and maybe we should. It's the north and south boundaries that can be paid for by BLM, according to what Legal J just shared with me. And I'm going to read that. The survey of reservations says, whenever it becomes necessary to survey any Indian or other reservations or any lands, the same shall be surveyed under the direction and control of the Bureau of Land Management, and as nearly as may be in conformity to the rules and regulations under which other public lands are surveyed. Then also the handout that the other one that he gave me, and this was the 1904 agreement, Article 4, that for the purpose of segregating the ceded lands from the diminished reservation, the new boundary lines described in Article 1 of this agreement shall, when necessary, be properly surveyed and permanently marked in a plain and substantial manner by prominent and durable monuments, the cost of said survey to be paid by the United States in that agreement. So the north boundary as well as the south boundary, west boundary, north boundary, that was the west boundary, north boundary. And then also in this other, I believe this was a statute, and it also reads in the 13th, it is a condition of this agreement that it shall not be binding upon either party until ratified by the Congress of the United States. And once so ratified, that said cession of land so acquired by the United States shall not be open for settlement until the boundary lines set forth and described in this agreement have been surveyed and definitely marked by suitable permanent monuments, erected every half mile wherever practicable, along the entire length of the said boundary, and I believe that was the west boundary. So, you know, I believe that we should amend these language at this time, and how to go about it, I think we should probably recess 5 minutes and add these language. Put our heads together, that way we'll be one normal human being.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll recess for a few minutes, get this straightened out, and then maybe finalize this one, and then look at recessing until tomorrow to complete the other JARs. So we'll finalize this one today, and then reconvene again tomorrow. We're going to recess till tomorrow. Senators, are you in agreement with that?
Yeah.
To continue on tomorrow? We'll finish this one out though, and then recess until tomorrow. So we'll go for a short recess right now, and then go into what it'd be, this is in your committee, right? Senator goes ahead. So we will recess and go directly into a Land Service Committee meeting, and then come back out of recess, finalize this JAR, and then go back into recess until tomorrow for the remaining 3 JARs.
No, I mean, we're gonna get this done, we just need to,
Get the language correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
Make the amendments and finish this.
Yeah.